Wait.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Bearded Men of Real Estate Show. I'm Ray. Say hi, Dan. Dan? Dan? Are you there?
What? Oh, is that now?
Yeah, bro. We got a show.
Hey, sorry about that. Hey.
Clayton Fernando Strims, already enjoyed the show, says, I'm just here for the beards. Well, you're welcome, good sir. Thank you guys, everyone, for joining the show today. I am your host, Ray. Dan is resetting his camera so that it doesn't do that during the show. Good idea.
Hi.
And we are two bearded real estate agents. I am in Arkansas. Dan is in LA. And we do this little weekly show. I think we have a bunch of new viewers, actually. There were two things that happened. We got some.
Well, can I break the news?
Yeah. Break the news. Tell the world what is going on with the Bearded Men. This is exciting, guys.
I think I'm going to cover one, then you can cover the other. Welcome to the number 16 podcast in news.
The number 16 podcast in news, everyone. That's right. The Bearded Men of Real Estate Show. We're super proud of it.
In Taiwan.
Well,
what's happening?
Yes, we actually got an email this week, and it said, congratulations, guys. You are the number 16 podcast in news in Taiwan.
In Taiwan. It was in very small text in Taiwan.
Yes, it was. It was pretty funny. So no, we have, I want to get the name of this right. Because we also have been introduced to a new group. So I guess it was last week or the week before on one of our BMORE chops, which if you're watching this on YouTube, let me tell you a couple of things first. You need to hit the bell and subscribe so that you're notified for every time we go live. Okay, yep. So be sure you subscribe and hit the bell. Also, be on the lookout for BMORE chops. That's the Bearded Men of Real Estate chops. Get it? Chops. It's the type of beard. It's the short version of our show that just takes one of the news articles that we do. And that's it, right? So if you don't want to watch the entire podcast or listen to the entire podcast, then that's what you look at, the BMORE chops. The other thing you could do, if you are watching live, you could comment on YouTube or on Facebook, and we can display your comment on the show. So just like Howard Broadsley, he said on YouTube, hey, gents. Hey, buddy. Thanks for joining the show there from Israel. Eric Vesquez says hi. And Clayton says, here, don't mind me, I can't spell. Okay, you're good. Marines over college. So you can comment, and then we can display your comment. So this is super valuable. A lot of consumers watch the show. A lot of industry professionals watch the show. And part of, I think, what makes this show different is being able to have a conversation about these topics and not just covering the topics. So we're not just going to tell you the news. We anticipate your interaction with the news. So that being said, we got a comment on one of our BMORE chops from Stuart Jacobson. Stuart has a group and a YouTube channel that is specifically made for newer agents. And it's like exam prep, right? And he loves what we're doing and wants to promote it in his group because he thinks it would be beneficial, because one of the things we always say, which Dan is probably going to tell you in a minute, is that we love giving value up front, because a rising tide lifts all boats. So if we can all get better and have better information and knowledge as a real estate industry, then hopefully the industry as a whole will improve. And
we're doing what NAR won't.
You said it, Dan. I mean, in a way, yeah. Like, what news educational program is there from the National Association of Realtors that helps realtors understand what's going on in the economy, and then how to translate that information to consumers and represent well? What I don't know of anything out there like that.
No, and by the way, if you watch the show weekly or just catch it once a month or whatever that is, we often have tips and tricks on just how to be a solid agent, how to stay away from the sketchier parts. You know, and we tell a lot of these stories that are personal to Ray and I that we go through, and then also all of our viewers, all of our commenters, all of our BMORE contributors giving their stories and their side of things, and so. We love giving value, which again, I'm going to say in a minute, but I think that's really cool that we're being thrown into that group, and hopefully it helps some people out.
I'll post a link to the group in our chat too, so that you guys can find it there. Howard said, and that's why I try to listen and watch. Thanks, man. We appreciate you.
So, yeah. From Israel too. So
Worldwide program.
what we're doing applies to the world, specifically Taiwan. We're very Taiwan focused.
Extremely.
For some reason, but
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Tim said it was tall white guys with beards. That's what Tim suggested.
Yeah.
Maybe we are freaks of nature in Taiwan.
Well, I mean, we're freaks of nature here. So
I wasn't gonna say that, but yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
All right, Dan. Well, before we get into these headlines, because we have a lot to talk about, we're going to talk about the market. We're going to talk about. It seems like everything's kind of up and away in these headlines today, right? So prices. Pending sales may be the only thing that's not, but home prices, mortgage demand, there's a lot of stuff that's moving up. Suburbs, we're going to talk about what's going on in the suburbs, which you've seen our thumbnail. That's what that's about. And NAR makes an apology. I titled it a historic apology for stuff that happened in history. So we'll read that together.
And if you're fancy, by the way, you say an historic apology.
So I had that typed out, but it just didn't. It felt too pretentious.
I don't know.
Really historic.
I say it's historic or it's a historic apology. But when you're fancy or posh, you say it's an historic. Yeah, I don't get it. I've never understood it. I was taught that vowels get an and consonants get a. So
look at this. I'm loving all the YouTube love. Ryan Bokros joining us YouTube says hi. Hey, buddy. Thanks for joining the show. Smitty Smith, who's an amazing CrossFit coach. He said, cool shirt, Ray. If you're wondering where the shirt comes from, it's from the Linchpin group. It says scaling is cool. If you don't know what that means, you got to do CrossFit. Howard said,
or you could be, handling fish after you catch them, you descale them. Maybe that's
scaling is cool. Also, when you're doing large drug runs, you need different kinds of scales. Anyway, Howard said Taiwan and Israel, world leaders. That's right. Mm-hmm. All right. So Dan, before we get into these headlines, will you tell everyone what this show is actually all about?
You know what? I'd love to. Now, when Ray and I met 4 years ago, we're just rounding up to 4 years. I have no idea. It might be 12 years. It might be 2 years. I don't know. I think it's 4, though. I had an idea for a show, because I am, in fact, a bearded man of real estate. Right. But when I met Ray, I noticed something very interesting about him.
What was that?
He tried on multiple occasions to replicate the movie Up with his own home. Did you guys know that about him?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So 20,000 balloons didn't even do it. Just so you know.
Yeah, obviously didn't, but I obviously noticed that Ray had a beard as well, but he also had a format for the show, and it's the same format that we use today. But I also noticed that he loves giving value up front to not only other real estate agents, but just as a human. So the show is about being more as an agent, but also being more as a human.
Right. And our core belief is that hopefully you guys can find some of the news that we talk about useful today, and it would come up in conversation with your clients and consumers when like, hey, what's going on with the market? Or, hey, I saw this thing about mortgage rates in the news. Can you tell me what's going on there? And then it could hopefully allow you an opportunity to have a conversation with your sphere or your person that's asking. And then from there, maybe you can get a lead. Maybe you can sell stuff.
It works with, both on the listing and the buy side. I mean, just this week alone, I'm now, Ray and I are a little bit freaks as far as we just love looking up data and kind of stories about real estate stuff. So we always stay on top of this stuff, but don't do all that boring stuff. Let us do it for you. Just watch the show weekly and we'll get you all caught up.
Just 1 hour. Watch or listen to the podcast.
That's it. And we'll get you all caught up.
And if you've been wondering when are these guys going to get to the show, it's probably too late because we're about to get to it. But we always on YouTube will put the little timestamps down at the bottom so that you can quickly zoom to the show. So even if you don't want to wait on the BMORE chop to get to your favorite story about the condo rebound, then you can always find it at the bottom of the show. Just click the timestamp there.
So if you just want the news and no personality because we are brimming with personality, then just go ahead and click the timestamps.
Right. There you go. You'll even get a little personality there too. Hey, Stephanie Gwynn. She said, hi from National School of Real Estate, learning and teaching value on the daily.
Good. Nice work. Hey, that's kind of like a plug. Wow.
Yeah. I went to real estate school there. That's pretty good.
Borderline sponsor.
Yeah. You should totally sponsor the show, Stephanie. Melissa Mara said, is he really drinking out of a Starbucks state mug? Why?
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Oh,
is that bad? Is that bad?
Oh, totally staged. Right. By the way, he did that on purpose.
All right, let's get into the show. You ready?
Yep.
And just like that, we're in the headlines.
I don't know.
October.
We're never, ever going to do anything fancy. That's it. We
I don't
used
know.
to say
Well, now we're stuck at it, right? We can't.
sometime in the future. We've always said so. It's still always going to be the future. But
I mean,
I don't know. I think it's just the thing. I think it's just what we do.
yeah, we've always said we want to do it, but now I think we're stuck doing it the old way.
Yeah.
So for those of you who hate it,
And now that we're number 16 in Taiwan, we can't really.
we can't just change it up. All right. Let's see. October pending home sales fall unexpectedly as high prices take their toll on buyers. So that's right. Pending home sales in October fell 1.1% month to month.
Oh man.
Yeah. I'm hearing a little echo, by the way. But they were still 20.2% higher compared with October last year. So that's clearly why the headline touts that high prices are taking a toll on buyers, alluding to the slowdown of the real estate market compared to all previous years, when in actuality, that just wasn't the case. So let's get into the meat of it. Lawrence Yoon did a good job representing us. He said the housing market is still hot, but we may be starting to see rising home prices hurting affordability. If you've been I don't know, I can't remember if it was the pending home sales, but we have seen a decline week over week over week, and then we had an increase. And it may have been the pending home sales or just straight home sales. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But this kind of falls in line with that about the fall and maybe trending downward because of the fall. And then when you look at the year over year numbers, it's still 20.2% higher. So when your client says, well, this COVID's got to be doing some crazy stuff to the housing market, I saw where October we fell 1.1% in pending home sales. You can say, well, yeah, but you're still 20.2% higher than you were the previous year.
Right.
So that let's see, mortgage rates were still hovering historic lows, but supply was down to nearly 2.7 months, which is 20% lower annually, which is also contributing to the increasing prices, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and making it more difficult for buyers to find a home.
So I ran my numbers and again, if you've never watched the show, I just run Rancho because we have an everything market. You
got to say the whole name. Say the whole name.
Rancho Cucamonga, California.
Cucamonga.
Yeah. We have $300,000 houses all the way up to $3 million houses. So I just kind of run everything single family, and we are at right now. If I went back to, I did the whole year until November 30th, and kind of broke it down, and then by days, and essentially over the year we're selling 4.1 houses a day. So then when you do the math, you get to 114 a month. Right now we have 116 active listings.
So you have a half day supply.
A month plus 1/2 day supply.
Is it a month plus 1/2? Yeah. A month plus 1/2 day supply.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So the national average, by the way, that national average down to 2.7, that's crazy low for national. That means all those slower selling markets like our, Little Rock formerly they're now sped way up.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then I do have more numbers for a story we're doing later that I'm going to break down because they're super telling. It's really, really crazy. So if you don't, by the way, just run your numbers, just look back, month to month, see what you're doing, and then just be well knowledge about the market. So because buyers are going to ask, or even if they don't ask, you can throw a stat at them. They'll be like, dude, this person knows their stuff.
That's exactly what they
awesome. I'm talking to an expert. I don't know where that voice comes from.
I like it. Dusty Martin says, good morning, my favorite baby men. Good morning. I would have to say, that's so funny because it's totally noon here. I was like, why is she saying good morning? But she's in AZ, right?
Yeah. So, and they don't care about time changes. They're like, dude, this is our time year round. We're out.
Everyone changes it around them.
Yep.
So it seems like if supply was higher, then sales would be higher because there's still more buyers looking to buy, just not enough supply. That is pushing prices up, which we'll get to in a little bit. And I wonder what's the limit there. Everyone says we're approaching the limit. We haven't seen the limit yet. I have to say this. We were going to do a news story today about malls and how they're predicting now within 5 years, you'll lose 25% of the malls that you currently have. And then I started looking and that's the same headline from early 2010s. And then they put it again in 2017. And then they did it again in 2019. So I know malls have been hurt specifically because of COVID. So I'm looking for updated data on that. So whenever you see the mall headline, it was on CNBC the other day, find the data. We're looking at the data that shows exactly how much, because I think just in this year, we may have lost 25% of the stores inside of malls. So we're looking at that in the failing department stores. I just didn't have all the data to feel comfortable giving you that story when I researched the headline, and it's the same exact headline for 10 years. So,
right.
Side note on headlines.
Yeah. And I mean, with the resurgence of the 80s, and malls were a huge thing in the 80s. That's the main thing I did when I was 12 to 16 years old. We went to the mall to go hang out.
You're a mall rat.
Literally a mall rat. The movie was written about me and my friends. Just kidding. So I think the business is there. And by the way, they're still kind of open. You just have to take numbers and go in lines, and it's way, way different. You can't just go hang out. But I don't know. I'm hoping that the second these things can open back up again, because I love a good mall, and like the season 3 of Stranger Things had a lot of mall scenes.
I know. So I'm hoping that no spoilers. I haven't watched that one yet.
Well, it's set in a mall. I mean, okay. Not only, but there's some scenes that happen in a mall. Sorry, spoiler alert. But so I'm really hoping that it just gets spent there, because I have like an attachment, like a deep-seated attachment to malls. So whenever I see just an old school 50s, 60s built mall, man, I get excited. So hopefully they're still there.
All right. So let's go to the next story. Mortgage demand.
So mortgage demand for malls mortgage demand for home buyers spikes 28%. And the average loan amount sets a record high. But what does that mean for refis? So Thanksgiving week isn't usually a popular time for home buying, but most economic numbers this year are incomparable, or incomparable. Maybe you could say it that way, whatever you guys want.
I like incomparable.
Incomparable. You guys do whatever you want out there. Mortgage applications to purchase a home jumped 9% last week from the previous week, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association seasonally adjusted and holiday adjusted index. Usually it's just seasonally adjusted, not holiday adjusted. Purchase applications were a stunning 28% higher from a year ago. Now here's a quote from Joel Kahn. We love this man. Purchase activity continued to show impressive year-over-year gains, with both the conventional and government segments of the market posting another week of growth. And he is the Associate Vice President of Economic and Industry Forecasting over at MBA, by the way. He goes on to say, housing demand remains strong, and despite extremely tight inventory and rising prices, home sales are running at their strongest pace in over a decade. So all kind of stuff we know. Now, the average purchase loan amount, not purchase price, the average purchase loan amount hit $375,000 as of last week, which is the largest since the inception of the MBA survey in 1990. Average purchase loan amount is $375,000.
So,
dude,
all right, keep going. I know you have a little bit more, but let's earmark that and come right back to that number. I have some questions about it.
So low mortgage rates are not only giving buyers emotional incentive, they're also giving them more purchasing power and helping to inflate the prices. But unfortunately, refis have been hit hard, since it seems that no one is refinancing anymore. Applications to refinance a home fell 5% for the week. So, they're obviously going down, but they're 102% higher than a year ago, Ray. So I wanted to see where the story on refinance volume down and plummets, and the refi market is down. But then you read the story. It's not up 20% like purchase volume. It's 102% higher than a year ago.
So, LaForce. Is that French?
I think that's French.
Paul Osipov. Thanks for joining the show, sir. So here's my question about that average price point being like $375,000.
The mortgage amount.
Average mortgage.
Yeah.
Is that because the lack of inventory in the lower price ranges? And so just as a fact of inventory, most homes being sold are those that are higher priced?
Yes. And I'm assuming it's some, and lower price points, then you're getting the higher loan amounts anyway. You're using the FHA, the 1% down, the 3% down, the down payment assistance. So that's going to have a higher loan balance as well, if you're not putting the 10 and 20% down.
So that makes sense then. It kind of goes with what we've been talking about, slight increase in pricing and things like that. It's not like a huge sign of affordability or inaffordability, in my opinion. It's just a sign of statistics.
And the average, we're going to have a new construction story later. The average price there is also up as well. But is it higher or is it lower? You're going to have to watch to find out.
That's right. He says it's from Mallrats. I remember that now.
Oh, there you go. It's literally written about my life, and I've watched it once. Like, whatever.
LaFours, a fictional character from the film Mallrats. Chief security guard. There you go.
There you go.
Just remembering. All right, so let's talk about the next news story. We've been talking about home prices. Home prices see the biggest spike in 6 years in September.
Wait,
according
6 years only in September, or in 6 years?
So the biggest spike year over year versus previous months. So August to August, September to September, October to October. Right. The biggest spike year over year monthly that they've seen in 6 years.
Okay, just being clear, because not for me, I'm very clear on all these stats and headlines and stuff. I'm saying for anyone that may not get it, I'm just doing that for them. So there you go. You're welcome.
Other people,
right. Not me.
All right, so prices are up, but just how much? It's actually 7% annually in September, up from 5.8% annual gain in August, according to the S&P Core Logic Case-Shiller Index. So that's the largest annual gain since September of 2014. The last peak was in 2006, and home prices are now 23% higher than 2006.
Wow.
Is it a sign of a crash? So here's a quote from Craig Lazar. He's the managing director and global head of index investment strategy at S&P Dow Jones Indices. He says that house prices were notably, I'm tempted to say, very strong in September. I don't know why I phrased it that way, but that's his quote. That's what he said. He said this month's increase may reflect a catch-up of COVID-depressed demand from earlier in the year. Yeah. It might also presage future strength. I like how this guy talks. As COVID encourages potential buyers to move from urban apartments to suburban homes, which we have a story about in a minute. The next several months reports should help shed light on the question. So the question is, when will it end? That's what they always seem to be asking. Like, when's the crash coming? What's going to happen? Here's a quote from George Ratu. He's the senior economist at Realtor.com.
That's a great movie, by the way.
Ratatouille. Mm-hmm. He said the delayed spring home buying season fueled sales well into October and past the time when they would normally begin to slow down due to seasonal reasons, right? He goes on to say that heading into winter, demand continues to be strong, driven by mortgage rates, which have been broken record lows 13 times this year, and a growing list of companies which have extended their remote work policies well into 2021. So those remote work policies, I guess the biggest group of companies that's been in the news lately is Silicon Valley, right? Because they've sent a lot of people home. And the big question was, if you work for Silicon Valley and they're like, hey, you can remote in from anywhere, and then you go and work from like a beach on Texas, which is cheaper than
Arkansas.
We don't have many beaches, but a beach in
No, I mean, there's incentive to move to Arkansas.
Yeah, there is incentive. Well, there is some incentive. We can maybe cover that story if we have time at the end. So if you're moving, the big question was, are they going to change your pay? Because now you have somebody making, $500K, $600K. It's what they needed to live in Silicon Valley. In Arkansas, you can buy a town. So we're kind of still waiting to see how some of that shakes out. But the remote work is real. And I think that's why there's a lot of vacancy right now in commercial too. There are people that are not renewing leases this coming year. So it'll be interesting to see how all that affects commercial mixed in with the mall stuff. Which I do have a quote from Dusty on the mall. I'll get to that while we're talking about it. She said, we have malls going under, but they're simply revamping it to be more like a walkable community hotspot. So we have Paradise Valley Mall going under in Phoenix, was always a hotspot, but Scottsdale created locals like
locales.
Oh, sorry.
She's fancy. She also says and
locales like the Scottsdale Quarter and Kireland Commons, which is more small shopping districts with dining, outdoor walkable space, etc. PV Mall was all under one roof. but will be transitioning to more outdoor venue. So that's like Scott said, that's really interesting change. And as the vacancies increase in commercial, due to everything that's going on in the real estate market and in the home market, as people move out of the cities, it'll be interesting to see what's happening. I think all of that kind of ties together, right? You've got commercial spaces becoming available because more people are working from home. You've got more people looking for bigger space to work from home. So they're jettisoning from the cities, looking for homes in suburban areas if they can only find them. Because as we've been talking about, inventory has been the key in those suburban areas.
Yeah, and like we have here in Rancho Cucamonga, California, we have one really awesome outdoor mall, and it's straight up mall. It's just all outdoors, called Victoria Gardens. It's got cool eateries, all the awesome shops, amazing pizza. It's got everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have another one that it was just literally an outdoor strip mall, but they got like a facelift. And then at the end of it, there was like I think it was an old Target or something that got turned into like a big food court. So it's all indoor, but it's got outdoor spaces. So that becomes essentially the food court of that outdoor mall that people can walk and stuff. So that gets,
they could always do it like Vegas. Like you could go from casino to casino in Vegas, and some like Caesar's Palace, which makes you feel like you're outside.
Yeah.
With all the, paintings and stuff like that on the ceiling of sky.
Well,
but you're not
50-foot ceilings and all that. Yeah.
And they have little restaurants with these outdoor seating areas. You could sit outdoors, but you're not actually outdoors.
Well, as long as indoors is outdoors, it's okay. But indoors, you're not okay.
Right. Well, you have to have some COVID venting these days. So you got to get that working as well.
I just had that installed into the beard, by the way, COVID venting. Right. It goes in this way and then comes out.
I love it. All right. So let's do like most other people, Dan, and get into the Burbs.
By the way, I love that movie. So today's thumbnail is just, if you guys haven't seen it, you need to check out the thumbnail. It's so good.
We were proud of the thumbnail. Me and Matt worked hard on that. I actually told Matt at one point, I was like, all right, Matt, you got 10 minutes. See how fast you could do it. And he like sent it to me in 2 seconds. I was like, oh, okay. That's pretty fast.
All right. You're good. You're
all
good.
right.
All right. Let's see. Where are we at? Oh, there we go. The Burbs. Duh. So this one kind of goes along with, we have another one for new home sales that's Ray's going to hit the an historic apology, and then I'll get back to the new home sales. But the National Association of Home Builders, home building geography.
No, geography is way better. Let's go home building geography.
I've been so good. I used to always say
economist,
economist. Kind of on purpose, but then after a while, that's just
first
how I said
time it was by mistake, but then from then on, it became on purpose. So
yeah, and I fixed that. Now I'm saying geography. So anyway, home building geography index found that during the third quarter, the exodus from big cities to the suburbs, or the burbs, to follow along with our thumbnail, from the cities to the burbs and less expensive areas increased as people continue to work remotely, which is what Ray was just mentioning. According to the HBGI, which that's a thing, suburbs of medium-sized cities posted the greatest single-family gains in quarter number 3, as there was 15% growth rate over the last 4 quarters. Wow. Think about that, like just on a national scale, 15% is such a leaving a city and going to the burbs. It's just, that's a big chunk. So the worst performing regions were large metro urban cores with a 5.7% gain. The report showed that single family construction in second home markets expanded at a 13.6% average rate over the last 4 quarters compared to a 10.5% pace in other counties. This is a quote from Chuck Folk, and he is the NAHB chairman. The growing demand in lower density markets stems from the fact that housing is less expensive compared to urban areas, and buyers can afford larger homes to accommodate home offices, exercise rooms, and other specialty rooms, which are in higher demand since the Rona. He goes on to say, however, builders continue to deal with affordability headwinds on the supply side front, including the cost and availability of building materials. So the article also does note that the Commerce Department has recently reduced duties on softwood lumber shipments from Canada to the U.S. from more than 20% down to 9%. So moves are being made to help alleviate this pressure. And then Folk goes on to say tariffs have contributed to unprecedented price volatility in the lumber market in 2020, leading to upward pressure on prices and harming housing affordability for American consumers. And then he continues with the U.S. needs to work with Canada to end the tariffs and achieve a long-term stable solution in lumber trade that provides for a consistent and fairly priced supply of lumber. So he also mentions in the article the what did we cover, Ray, 2 weeks ago? The home builder confidence at 90 something. He mentions that that's way up, so they're ready to go, and they are catching up. You know, we can kind of see gains being made in catching up and having enough homes available, but then they keep running into, what do you always say, the land, labor, and materials.
Mm-hmm. I just put a link to the HBGI, the Home Building Geography Index, in the comments for you guys to look up. There's a lot of cool stats, facts, charts. Let me put this on the screen so you guys.
Now, for me here in California, new home construction is different, or new home purchases. I don't do a lot of new homes. I don't help a lot of buyers buy new construction. A lot of times there's going to be an HOA, and we have a thing called Melrose, which is a special assessment tax. So it's not that they're there, not that people don't buy them. I never, because you're not supposed to steer. So for those new agents watching, by the way, do not steer your clients to or away from anything. And you can be steering without knowing it. So you just have to make your search based on what they're looking for. But I don't get the request for new construction. I mean, it's rare for me, you know, and I do help a lot of buyers. So it is different here, but nationally, this would be a good stat for you guys to know that, hey, if you have those buyers that are waiting, you know, they're trying to get into those lower end and mid-range areas.
Melissa Mars said, I went to a new Dr. Horton.
I
get a kick out of it every time. Sorry. Okay. I'll read it.
He's an orthodontist.
I went to a new DR Horton development and had the lumber price convo with their rep. She basically said, yes, it's a thing and it kind of sucks for build time, but people are still snapping up the higher prices. So basically they're raising their price in order to make up for the materials cost.
Yeah. And then I have a stat, and again, after the next story, I have a stat that's very, very interesting as far as pricing goes on new construction versus resale. Yeah,
I probably should have put those in different order. So here's a look at the HBGI index, and here's some of the cool graphs.
These things, and the article does too. It breaks down by region and what's doing what. So if you really want to know what's going on by county, I mean, it breaks it down to county and city. You can go check these things out. I highly recommend it just for knowledge. But again, if you are not the data nerd that Ray and I are, then we will do it for you.
Or maybe you're like, you know what? I'm really interested in non-metro micro county data.
Look at that. Oh my gosh.
There you go. Just
wow, they have a stat for me.
Yeah. Total population is 18 million. It's 5.6% of the total population, 4.9% of single family construction, third quarter, 20.9% single family quarterly growth rate for the third quarter.
Dude, I'm so happy right now. I'm like smiling like just a dill hole right now. I'm so happy with these numbers. It's crazy to see. Yeah. I don't know why this is so exciting to me. Numbers.
There you go. Ryan Bokeros from YouTube says, we've seen upwards of 10% increase by some builders due to lumber. Also have a few builders here reduce agent commission to offset it. Ooh, that's not the way to do. David Fresco says, when I was a builder rep, oftentimes clients would stumble in and not know it was even there. What do you mean not know what was even there?
The model homes or so? Oh, wow. These are homes. Let's go look at them.
Or the Melrose. Maybe he was talking about the Melrose.
Yeah,
probably.
Melrose isn't a widely known thing. I've brought it up 100 times on the show, but
I still think it sounds like a good bar or a drink or something like that.
Oh, I'm working on it. Welcome to the Melrose.
Doesn't it? It just sounds so good.
But I'll spell it like MELLOWRUSE. It's just a Melrose.
I tell you what, because these articles are seemingly out of order due to an oversight with those pesky producers, why don't you go ahead and get your next story, and then I'll come back for the apology.
Okay. Because they do tie well, and I don't mind. I'm a bit of a tease, so I don't mind teasing a little bit. But new home sales are 41.5% higher than a year ago. Wow. So, and we haven't really put a stat behind we've covered builder confidence and more and more people moving out and more people wanting new construction because it's cleaner. It's a safer environment. You can still look at them. It's not like an open house. But we haven't really put a stat on it. So to see 41%, that's pretty crazy. So buyers are increasingly, this one, buyers are increasingly targeting. I don't know, man. I haven't drank today. I promise. It's just, I don't have that. I didn't. Oh, you know what? I didn't do the thing I always do. I usually do
you do that. You're busy doing the other thing.
I was doing the other thing. If you didn't see the beginning of the show, I was busy doing that thing, didn't do the other thing. All right. Anyway, buyers are increasingly targeting new home construction as they face a low inventory of existing homes. New home sales in October are 41.5% higher than they were a year ago, the Commerce Department reported late last week. This is a quote from Chuck Folk again. Buyer traffic remained strong in October, even as the country's attention was focused on the elections and policy issues going into 2021. He goes on to say mortgage rates remain low and builder confidence is at an all-time high, indicating that demand remains steady and sales will remain solid. So this is interesting. So remember, the average loan amount on homes is $375, right? Yeah. The median sales price of a new home, now median, not average, the median sales price of a new home in October was $330,000. For comparison, a year earlier, the median sales price was $322,000. So it's gone up 2.5%, 3%.
And for those of you out there who don't know what median is, that's the number in the middle. It doesn't matter if it's an average or not. It's just of all the sales, what's in the middle. That's that number. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you can literally, if you have 100 sales, you look at the 50th sale.
Yeah.
It's not an average, it's median.
But
anyway, it's gone up, but it's still less than resale. So now I may be looking at this stat wrong, but because usually new home construction or new homes are at a premium, at a higher price.
Well, I wonder what the median resale.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, let me finish and Ray's going to look that up. So
see if we can find it.
Inventories remain tight at a 3.3 month supply. So existing home sales or resales was at 2.7. Now this is a 3.3 month supply at the current sales pace. Despite high buyer demand, inventories of new single family homes is 13.4% lower than a year ago. So what means home builders point to ongoing labor and lot shortages and rising lumber prices as reasons new home construction has slowed. So I do have my resales number. Did you find the stat, Ray? I have my.
Well, I mean, I'm questioning my source. It's homes.com. I don't know where they got the data, but they said the median currently for the United States housing market as a whole is 228. So that does mean that the resale is far lower than the median new construction.
That seems way too low.
I don't know. When you take into account everything, including all the rural area and all that, and everyone who's currently buying more suburban homes, it could be.
So then that goes to the, obviously, like I said, the new construction is more expensive, but that's $110,000 more expensive.
All right. So California housing market, the median is 537,000. So that's why you're thinking it's too low. It's just because what you're around probably.
There you go. That seems that's about dead on.
Right. So there you go. And I'm assuming they're pulling their data from MLS listings across the country because that is on homes.com, which they are a primary feeder of all the MLS listings. Are they like the third biggest site? Movato is like the fifth biggest.
See, I pronounce it Movado, but let me hit my number. Let me hit my numbers real quick. So now this is just, again, resale in Rancho. So January to November of 2019, average home price was $618,000, and that sold 1,215 properties. That's a year ago through this time last year. 1,215 properties sold, and that's just Rancho Cucamonga. I know Ray likes it when I say that. Now, January to the end of this November, 1,181 homes sold. So less, now not by much, but less, not more. Okay. And the average, now average, not median, the average price was $650,000. So A seller a year ago got 618 grand in Rancho.
Wow.
This year they got $32,000 more, that's an increase of 5% in a year.
So that's funny how close that is to the stat that talks about home prices on average being 7% above.
Yeah, that's about
totally
right. Yeah. And then the same stat. But what I thought was really interesting, and I've covered it on the show as well, and maybe it's not interesting to you guys, but it is to me. 42 days during that span a year ago, average days on market, 31 days right now, average days on market.
There you go.
Want to talk about an historic apology?
Let's talk about an historic apology. So for those of you that may be late to the game, maybe you're just thinking about getting your real estate license, since we have some viewers from the exam prep group, or maybe you've had your license for like maybe the last 20 years, you've missed a lot of racist stuff. And I say that because when I saw this come out, I thought that's kind of weird. Like, why are they doing that? We've had fair housing, we've had all these ethics classes that were taken, and we've had all this stuff. You know,
we were covered, right? We
can't say where crime stats come from because that's racist. We can't. I mean, there's almost overkill as far as what I've experienced as being a part of the National Association of Realtors and real estate in general since becoming licensed in 2007.
Right. So why have we had to step our game up?
Why are we apologizing?
Right.
Well, this may shock some of you. All right. So the National Association of Realtors issued a kind of an informal apology. On Thursday, NAR Apologized during a virtual summit on diversity and inclusion hosted by The Hill, a top political website, and co-sponsored by NAR 2021, which I thought that was interesting because The Hill is historically conservative, but I think the NAR has given more money to Democrat campaigns in the past. So I thought that was interesting that they were even on that. But here's a quote.
I find it interesting that they give money to political campaigns.
Well, I mean, let's not get political. Tongue in cheek. What realtors did was an outrage to our morals and ideals. It was a betrayal of our commitment to fairness and equality, said Oppler, who participated in the presentation along with NAR's Director of Fair Housing Policy, Brian Green. Quote, "We are sorry." So it's a bit. The reason why I said it was an informal apology is because they were saying it's not like a letter issued or anything like that.
It's then I was like, this guy.
I was like, well, why are we sorry? Because I know John Legend came out and said, realtors, you need to show all the houses that somebody's qualified for. I'm like, who doesn't do that? Right. So that's
then didn't he back off of it a little bit?
Well, then a lot of realtors were like, well, why don't you fix what's happening in your own house? Like all the, trafficking and stuff with celebrities and all that stuff. And so he did back off a little bit, but he was just like, I'm not talking about all realtors. I'm talking about those realtors, who I'm talking to, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he partnered with NAR
thing. Yeah. And he spoke. And when he partnered with NAR and spoke, I said, this sounds like an apology tour. You remember me saying this?
Yep.
And then I even mentioned Obama's apology tour when he went around the world and kind of was like, I'm sorry on behalf of the U.S. So this is kind of similar. It sounded to me like it was similar to that, where the NAR was like, well, let's bring John Legend up and let people know how sorry we are. And the whole time I'm like, what are we sorry for? Like, I know the thing that happened in New Jersey that was terrible, but that's so individualistic. It wasn't like a systemic thing. Then,
and so hold your thought. But when you apologize for us, right? How many of us are there? There's a lot of quote unquote
1.4 million.
1.4. So when you apologize for us, that means we're all saying we're sorry.
Yeah.
Not saying we will be better or those of the 0.1% of us that do this crap.
It gets on my nerves when they say we're going to try to do better. Like, what do you mean try? You just do better. Do or do not. There is no try.
Like, I've never deviated into any of this stuff. Yeah, do or do not. There's no try.
All right. So then I was like, why are we apologizing? What's going on? And I think we even talked about this 2 weeks ago when we talked about there's a group that is basically for Black real estate agents. It's the hang on. I always get this wrong.
I know. We want to make sure we're saying it right.
It is I want to say it's the National Real Estate Council or something. National Association of Real Estate Brokers. Okay. So it's an association made up primarily of minorities, African American, Black, etc. And it was created, I think, to combat NAR. I'm like, what is going on? All right. Then I got to this quote, guys. This is why NAR is saying I'm sorry. Discriminatory practices weren't just tolerated for many years. They were baked into the association's guiding principles for much of the 20th century. The passage of the Code of Ethics. This passage is from the Code of Ethics, added in 1921. Here's what it says. It was revised over the years. It was repealed in 1974. All right, but here's what it said. Realtors should never be instrumental in introducing into a neighborhood members of any race or nationality or any individuals whose presence would clearly be detrimental to property values in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Oh. Okay. So now I get why the National Association of Realtors is apologizing. But you know what my main question is, Dan?
Yeah, I do.
Why have you waited 50 years?
Well, 100 years. It was just written in there.
It was written in there 100 years, but it was repealed almost 50 years ago.
No, read it again. It says it was revised, but not fully repealed.
Oh, it was not fully repealed.
Right. So it hasn't been repealed. It's been revised, but not fully repealed in 1974.
So that's what people talk about, the redlining and stuff like that is well known in our history. And I think it's probably like a...
But wait, though. Do you think people read this and then go, oh, okay, I have to do that? Even though ethically within their own self, they're like, well, I shouldn't do that. But the Code of Ethics say I should do that. No.
It gave an excuse for those people to be racist who wanted to be racist.
Right. So, and they get to go, well, the Code of Ethics, I say, I can't help you move to this neighborhood.
Right.
But that even hurt me to say that.
Yeah. Dusty Martin said, yeah, that pissed me off. I've never done anything of the sort. So basically stated we were all guilty of something, which is BS. So I hear you. I know what you're saying.
But then when you see this, right.
When I saw that, I was like, yeah, y'all are guilty, NAR. Like you're totally like that's
ready.
That's
racist. It's who we are. Uh-oh.
Which is a terrible campaign to have if that's in your history and you have not cleared that up yet. So
yeah, you can do all the funny commercials you want, but it's not going to change that.
Yep. So as you know, the hate speech stuff has been banned. So just a reminder for anyone who comments on this, if you do hate speech, I'm going to have the joy of reporting you to NAR and then covering you in a future story when you get kicked out. It'll be fun to see.
It'll be very meta. Yeah. We will report you and then comment on your report.
Totally will do that. I'm not even playing. So we can't go back and fix mistakes of the past, he said, but we can look at the problem squarely in the eye, Oppler added during the Hill discussion. Change starts with us. We must remember history if we hope to repair America's radically divided communities. So I agree with this now for the most part. Whenever I saw that apology, I was like, man, this is just stirring stuff up. I haven't done anything. I couldn't imagine being in that climate, both either as a consumer or as a realtor and facing those things. And no wonder why the National Association of Real Estate Brokers was created, right? But with
they read that and went, whoa.
Yeah.
Wait.
With new rules in place, it's interesting to see what is going to happen now that you don't have to be a part of the National Association of Realtors to have access to lockboxes. I think the next step is separating the National Association of Realtors from the multiple listing service. And I think, this is my opinion, but I think they will have to open all of that up, because if they don't, they are still prohibiting competition in the marketplace. And it would not surprise me if there are a whole bunch of other National Association of Real Estate Agent type groups that are maybe a niche group or maybe a specific group that handles a specific problem. And you could be a member of multiple groups.
Yeah.
So that would not surprise me at all. But very interesting. Ryan Bookrow says, wait, so shouldn't this letter be from the realtor emeritus? Okay.
Emeritus.
Yeah. And not from those of us that have been realtors since 1974. So, yes, he says, kind of kidding, but how do so many of us not know these things? Who's been running the show and let that slide for so long? Yeah, that was a big question. Like, I've been a realtor now for 13 years. I had no idea that was ever in there. I'd heard stories about how, that had happened, but it was probably honestly my own laziness, not looking that stuff up and not being aware of the history of it. And
Well, I mean,
maybe also part of the job that they've done with fair housing. I just thought, wow, I mean, this is a group that's really on top of the fair housing thing.
but they let that one slide in there for the last 100 years.
Yeah.
So, but we have to go through ethics courses when we renew our license, when we get a license. So anyone that's watching that works that you're going to have to go through. Part of it is ethics. This wasn't mentioned in there, by the way.
They should totally keep it as a history lesson. If they say the quote, and I think this is kind of what Ryan is getting back to. Right. Oppler said, let's see, we must remember this history if we hope to repair America's radically divided communities. I think they need to head on and add this, like say, this used to be part of our group and it is not welcome here and not part of our group anymore. Yeah. But you should all remember this. This was part of the National Association of Realtors. Now here's where we are. Now this is why we do the fair housing. This is why we do all these fair housing programs.
Yeah.
This is why we're trying to get this out of our system, basically.
Instead of apologizing for a thing that no one ever knew was there. And he's essentially, to me, this is my opinion solely, not that of the Bearded Men Real Estate Show. But to me, he's making a thing out of a thing that no one, and he's essentially attaching that thing to all the division in the country through housing from essentially one part of the code of ethics that most of us didn't know existed. Am I wrong?
No, I totally agree.
Instead of saying, hey, this was, it's been revised and or you know what? I'm going to change my whole statement. Why not just repeal the damn thing? Get it out of there instead of changing it for the last 50 years. Just get rid of it and then do a whole thing. Hey, this was part of it. We're coming clean on this was a part of it. And we've worked on changing it, but now we're getting rid of it and we're changing it to this. And here's what we're going to do. There's this group and that group and this coalition, and we're going to put all these things together to help build, get away from where we feel that chunk of our ethics have led us. I mean, why not make a bigger plan around it?
Yep. Dusty Martin said, yep, that, Dan, exactly that.
So, yes. And
Eric goes on to say fair housing has always been at the issue of New York metro region. Only now it's been exposed by that article late last year. So if you're not familiar with that article late last year, this is it. I'll post it in the comments and all.
We covered it on the show.
We did cover it on the show. Let's see. This is from November. Was it a year ago? Yeah, there it is. All these undercover investigations. 25 testers were trained in these undercover investigations. 93 real estate agents were tested. 240 hours of meetings were secretly recorded. 5,763 house listings analyzed. A 3-year Newsday investigation uncovered widespread evidence of unequal treatment by real estate agents on Long Island. 19% of the time it was against Asians, 39% against Hispanics, and 49% against Blacks.
See, it's so weird. It's just so crazy to me. And this is, obviously there's data behind this and there's videos and there's recordings of this, but it's so crazy to me. When I meet someone, they say, we're looking here. I go, cool. That's where I'm going to help you find a house. Like I would never imagine steering anyone away from it. The only way is, and I even say if they don't have the budget for something, I say, sometimes our budget is going to dictate where we can look, but let's just, sometimes I even do, where do you work? All right, here's essentially what would equate to a 45-minute drive around where you work. And then we just look wherever. Like, I don't understand. I just, maybe it's different in New York. Maybe it's different somewhere else, or I don't know. To me, I've just never even thought about it. I have white people that live in black neighborhoods and historically black neighborhoods, and black people that live in historically white neighborhoods. That's just where they wanted to look. So I showed them those houses and help them buy a house.
Dan, I think that's primarily because you're not racist. I think that's the easy answer there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I have to say that I have encountered some people wanting to live by their own ethnicity. And I tell them I can't do that. They just have to tell me where they want to live.
Yeah, I did have one client that told me that, and I went, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
you and tell honestly, me the city you want to look in, and I'll help you with that.
I haven't experienced it white yet, so everyone that's told me that has been not white.
Yeah, same
minority population. They want to live by other minorities, which no judgment. Whoever you want to live by, that's fine with me. But I can't sort by that. That's for sure.
Yeah, because soon there will be a way to nationally see what you do and what you set your search up for, agents. So be careful.
Yeah, that's right. So Pete Thorpe said the travesty of that report is that all of these agents were stripped of their license. Oh, really?
Well, it's kind of that, like,
They were the travesty of that report is that not all or all.
He says all, but I thought I remember some that didn't.
I thought I remembered some that kept their license and stuff. And
well, I thought there were
people
reports. Wasn't there a chunk of that report where, hey, these agents were all good, they were above the board and all that stuff? I thought
I know there were some that were good. There's also, oh man, I'm just going to go back to this extensive reporting, like Agent Emery Quilly Beshend speaking to a black tester. I won't take out anyone unless you have a pre-qualification letter.
Yeah, we covered that one. Remember?
Yeah, we covered it.
So wait, what can I ask? What's wrong with that?
Can I ask? Can I say that this is a really? Oh wait, yeah, he said that's what he said. Wait, they weren't. Yeah, some of the agents that were racist were not stripped of their license. Yeah, that's
there you go. Yeah, that's a problem.
I have to also commend the builders of this website. Like, just on a technical standpoint, this is a really cool website and how
you can zoom in on the little maps. Yeah,
very cool. So yes, I think we covered that lady specifically. There were several people that were confronted with it and they would not apologize. But the issue, Dan, that we talked about with her was that when she would speak with white clients, she didn't have the same requirement.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Okay, I forgot that part. Yeah, that's a big thing to, yeah.
Yep. Dusty Martin said I had a white for sale by owner say she didn't want to sell to white people because there were too many in the area.
I mean, come on.
What do you care about? Okay, that's funny. Okay. All right. So yeah, that's what Eric was referring to. That's why there is an apology, is because the history for the organization as a whole, for the National Association of Realtors.
And can I also say it's awesome that they're shedding light that this was part or is part of the code of ethics and that they're trying to change it. But
one guy.
Yeah, not even they, by the way, it's one guy.
Yeah, Opler, which he is. What's his? I want to get his title right.
So that's why it's an informal apology, because it's one guy kind of speaking for us.
He's so President Charlie Opler. I didn't realize he was the president. He said unequivocally NAR's policy support. So he's that guy that we watched that was not a great reader that talked about the DOJ versus NAR. That was him, Charlie Opler. He's the one that brought up this. So that's great. That's actually from the top.
Oh yeah. He was not excited.
That is the guy. Eric said, I believe some were sanctioned, but not all. Since then, New York has added specific fair housing component to our CE requirements, separate from ethics and agency.
CE is short for continuing education, by the way.
Yeah, for those. Dusty said you can't make this stuff up. All right, so we have one more story to get to. I'll cover this pretty quickly. It's just an interesting topic that the condo market is rebounding. So home shoppers taking advantage of some discounts occurring in the condo market, fueling the sector's recovery since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Many home buyers are drawn to the upsizing, headed to the suburbs in favor of large community, but single-family home prices soar. Some are looking into condos. So condos are lingering on the market longer, averaging 36 days in October compared to single-family homes, which is a 27-day average. So nearly 23% of condos sold for more than their list price, and about 37% on the single-family homes. So basically, due to the economy and also due to the COVID, you could get some savings over purchasing a single-family home if you can live in a condo. Yes.
I just want to go ahead, just finish it, and then let me make my point.
I just want to get to this last quote. This is from Forrest Moody, a real estate professional with Redfin. He said that before the pandemic, and this is kind of anecdotal evidence, right? So, but he said before the pandemic, it was challenging to find a condo in Seattle for less than $500,000, but now there's plenty selling for under $400,000. Real estate professional with Redfin. He said that people who are buying condos are now people who couldn't afford to buy one a couple of years ago because prices were so high. I recently sold a condo within walking distance of Amazon's headquarters for $510,000. Condos in that building normally go for $550,000 and up. So they are seeing some breaks in the condo pricing around the country. And I think here too, but condos were not really selling great. Arkansas is not a real condo place. If you're moving to Arkansas, you want a yard and an acre or something, right?
That's why you're going there, and a free mountain bike.
Right. which you can get right now if you move to Arkansas and like $10,000.
I'm heavily considering it.
I don't like this plan. It's too many people are gonna notice what we have and are gonna infiltrate our great state, and then it's gonna be just as big as the other cities.
But they do have it, not to go off topic, but they do have a great caveat on there. You have to provide something for the local communities and the state. You can't just move there.
Right.
You have to prove that you're doing something good for the state. So I loved that caveat.
I wonder who judges that though. I wonder who's the caveat judge.
Well, and then they got to be careful with fair housing, right? Like, your work is in California.
No, they don't. They're the government.
That's their workaround. So, but I want to make my point because Pete, you want to hit Pete's comment? You want me to make my point?
Yeah, there you go. He said the CE is an absolute joke. They show wildly unrealistic scenarios to fill 3 hours instead of just saying you can't discriminate for any and all reason ever. Full stop. End of class.
Right. That's all they should say. And then you're like, okay, cool. Sign here. And then boom, there's my CEs. Okay. But I wanted to make the point just too many. Yeah. You have a lot of people coming there. But it's mostly because you don't change time zones. That's why people don't want their time to change. They just want it to be the same. Yeah, that's what I'm bringing another amazing beard to Arkansas. That's why I'm coming here. So, and by the way, I know that Arkansas was first, so I know the history of Arkansas. I know that. Now let me.
Arkansas was before Kansas, so that's why Kansas should be called Kansas.
Just like if you have a tool, you can saw. Anyway, but I want to make the point about condos. So this is more consumer facing and maybe newer agent facing. So you just hear the stat is. Essentially what they're saying is you can get a deal on condos right now, right? So something was 500 a year ago, now it's 400, which I would like to see the actual numbers behind that. But let's say Susie Orman was true. What?
That says 500 and then 400. It's actual numbers.
There you go, actual numbers. But like, let's go away from what Susie is stating here. But I got to bring up Susie Orman every week on the show. In case you don't know, she made an outlandish post about 5 months ago that we all jumped on her for. Anyway, you have to remember though that condos, and this is a case, maybe it's only in California, but you're going to have an HOA, and that HOA is part of your purchase power. So if you have a $250 HOA, that's essentially $50,000 that could be going towards buying yourself a single family home. So essentially you're cutting down your max purchase price for a single family home, which would be $450 or $500. And again, if you don't need a yard and you want more of the if it has amenities and all that stuff, but that HOA is part of your purchase power. The lender takes that into account. So if you're purchasing a $500,000 single family home, your condo budget is not going to be the same. And usually we average it to $300 here in Southern California. That's usually what a lender rounds it up to. So I don't know, just things to think about, that you get a discount, but then you got to pay $300 a month for an HOA that may or may not do something for you in your community. FYI. Yeah,
that's a very good point. Tim disagrees with me. He said that's not true about Kansas. He said pirates in Kansas had a disagreement about the other settlers and headed south and started Arkansas.
Hey, what's a pirate's favorite letter, Ray?
R.
Well, you think it's the R, but no, it's the C.
Oh, yeah, that's good. You can do that one way or the other.
Good. Just go ahead and see myself out.
All right, everybody, you can find Dan at Dan Ludwig Rocks, D Ludwig Rocks on the Instagrams. He loves it. Also, if you ping him on Facebook, because he'll never check his messages. You can find me at Ray Zorback. That's RayZorback on the interwebs. Just mostly everywhere, except for Snapchat. I'm the Ray Ellen there for some reason. Anyway, bye, guys. Bye. Thanks for joining the show. We appreciate you. Bye. Leave comments. Subscribe.